And starting with the big story this hour, at least 40 people have been killed and around 140 have been injured in a bomb blast in Afghanistan's capital city of Kabul. The bomb was hidden in an ambulance at a police checkpoint, and the blast site lies near foreign embassies and government buildings. The Taliban has claimed responsibility for the blast a week after it claimed an attack on the Intercontinental Hotel in Kabul, in which more than 20 people were killed. Right now, we're being joined by senior journalist Shadi Khan. Hi, Shadi. I would like to ask you, what's the current situation in Kabul that you're observing? Hi, Shadi Khan. Can you hear me? So what we're finding out right now is that at least 40 people have been killed in a blast in Kabul's busy streets near embassies. And this is just a week, actually less than a week before, after an attack on the Intercontinental Hotel in Kabul, where 22 people died and 14 of them were foreigners. Although we do not know the nationalities of the people killed in this attack, we do know that it took place around embassies where foreigners, which is commonplace for foreigners. And this is the third terrorist attack in Kabul, even before this month has ended. So what we know is at least 40 people have been killed and around 140 have been injured in a bomb blast. The bomb was hidden in an ambulance at a police checkpoint, and the blast site lies near foreign embassies and government buildings. The Taliban has claimed responsibility for the blast just a week after it claimed an attack on the Intercontinental Hotel in Kabul, in which more than 20 people were killed. And this attack, as we know, took place around 12:45 p.m. local time on Saturday in a very busy street. All those who have been injured, which are almost 140 in numbers as of now, have been taken to the local hospitals after the attack. And the Taliban almost immediately claimed responsibility for the attack, just a week after it claimed responsibility for another attack on the Intercontinental Hotel in Kabul, which happened by way of a siege that lasted almost 12 to 15 hours, where terrorists from the Taliban surrounded the hotel and people were forced to either escape, and many of them lost their lives, around 22 of them, of which 14 were foreigners. What we do know about this attack is that it took place in an ambulance where the explosive was hidden. And right now we're being joined by my colleague Rakshita Mishra on the phone line. Rakshita, I would like to ask you, what's the latest that we know on this attack?
Well, the death toll stands 40 right now, and around 140 have been wounded. That's the latest figures we're getting from the Health Ministry of Afghanistan. As of now, what we do know is that the explosion occurred where the bomb was planted in an ambulance at a police checkpoint. The buildings were, this is close to an office of the High Peace Council, and where the several foreign embassies are also there. Buildings hundreds of meters away were shaken by the force of the explosion that we know from the eyewitnesses over there, which left torn bodies strewn on the streets nearby amid rubble and the debris. People have been helping around. The latest attack, of course, we do know that will be adding pressure, as you mentioned, that this is, of course, the third attack in the recent times. A week ago, we do know about the deadly attack that killed around 20 people in the Kabul hotel. Now, the latest attack will add pressure, of course, on President Ashraf Ghani and his U.S. allies, who have expressed growing confidence that a new, more aggressive military strategy has succeeded in driving the Taliban insurgents back from
Rakshita. I'm sorry to cut you short there, but we are being joined by our senior journalist in Afghanistan, Shadi Khan. Hi, Shadi. I would like to ask you, what's the situation as you are observing in Kabul?
Well, the situation is very tense. This attack today that we witnessed in the afternoon, it took place in the middle of the old Kabul city, very close to the old Kabul Bazaar. There are many public hospitals and government offices, Ministry of Interior compound. a very crowded place, and in the afternoon lunch and prayers break, this attack took place, in which an ambulance loaded with explosives was used, and it blew at the main entrance of the Ministry of Interior compound. We have 40 confirmed casualties, and more than 100 people are wounded. And as I just heard your host saying that this pretty much can be linked to the new strategy, new war strategy by the U.S. Now, both sides seem to be focusing more on the military aspects of this conflict, and the Afghan government with its allies and the Taliban, both of them are aggressively pursuing to gain more and more on the battlefront, and today's attack is just another example of that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Shadi, for that input. We're also being joined by our correspondent in Amman, Daniele Pagani. Daniele, I would like to ask you that, is anything known about the attacker at this point of time? We do know that he belonged to the Taliban. However, we do not have much details on what's his current status.
Well, nothing new, nothing that we know exactly on who this person was. What we know is that he tried to enter the area. He was stopped at a first police checkpoint, and then he tried to enter after being stopped from another lane, which was a wrong lane. The police again tried to stop him, but he decided to blow himself up. So this is what we know. We know that he belonged to the Taliban. This is a coordinated attack. Remember that it seems now very much so that the Taliban have escalated their offensive against the capital city of Afghanistan, Kabul. And this will be an enormous challenge because, unfortunately, the security network in Afghanistan is not proving to be stable enough, wide enough, deep enough to stop this kind of attack. Since, I would say, May 2017, we have repeatedly seen a high-profile attack. Remember, in May 2017, an enormous attack close to the German embassy in Wazir Akbar Khan, which is the central diplomatic area of Afghanistan, took place. More than 100 people died. The Intercontinental Hotel has been under siege for 15 hours a few days back, and in between we've had repeatedly several bombs. When I was in Afghanistan, at least 2 attacks happened against the Shia mosque. So the offensive is scaling up. The Taliban are scaling up the offensive everywhere in the country, but particularly in the capital city and not very far from the national elections.
Absolutely, Daniele. And just adding on to that, I would like to ask you that these are all prominent places. First, a supermarket that happened, I think, on January 4th of this year. Then the Intercontinental Hotel, very famous among foreigners and diplomats. And now, again, this street, which finds itself surrounded by embassies and foreign locations. So these are all prominent locations, yet the security does not seem to be deep enough, as you said. So what could we predict that the Afghan strategy would be going forward?
Difficult to say, because it's not that the Afghan government hasn't been doing nothing in these years to try to enhance the level of security. The problem is that the level of corruption within the security forces is unfortunately high. So this is one problem. Several generals have been arrested in the last 2 years because they were diverting funds which would have been dedicated to the security, to enhancing the equipment, the military equipment for the soldiers and the police on the ground in order to improve their security. They were diverting these funds for their own personal benefit. So this is one aspect of the problem. The second aspect of the problem is the structure of Kabul. Despite being a fortified city, it is impossible to control it inch by inch. The traffic is huge. And even if a police checkpoint stops you at the entrance of one of the many little lanes within the diplomatic quarter, even if you blow yourself up there with a car laden with explosives, the damage is enormous. So it's very difficult. Keeping a complete town, a city like Kabul under siege, it's nearly impossible. So this is not entirely the fault of Afghan security forces, but definitely there will need to be more security, perhaps a ceasefire, perhaps an emergency kind of situation for a while could be a good idea. But this is a problem because one person can always escape the network security no matter where you are.
Right, Daniele. And just moving on to a slightly different tangent, I would like to ask you that the U.S. was planning to increase its presence of troops and the number of troops in Afghanistan. So is this some kind of a signal to the U.S.?
Definitely, yes, definitely. The entire offensive of the Taliban, but not starting now. I would say since the very beginning, the entire offensive to the Taliban has been always very clear. They are fighting a foreign nation, which they believe to be occupying, invading illegally their own country. So they are fighting a nationalist war, so to say. They are fighting an ideological war, so to say. They are fighting in their own perception of the religion. They're fighting also a religious war, a jihad, a holy war. Obviously, this is their very own perception of the religion of Islam, which has nothing to do with what they are doing, but unfortunately they use it for their own benefit and their own propaganda. So yes, this is definitely yet another message to the Americans who are willing to enhance. In fact, they have already started their presence, not only the military presence, but also the kind of operations that they are conducting now. B-52 bombers which are currently placed in Qatar, have been authorized to fly over Afghanistan and to conduct operation. And I would say that the situation has plummeted from the moment when the United States of America dropped the so-called mother of all bombs in the Nangarhar province. From that moment, we have seen an escalation in the city of Kabul.